Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One problem about being 3 hours in, a lot of your information gets beat up by other members. So I kind of got a mishmash going on of different things, but I will try and be very brief. First off, I do have one comment. Representative Mosser had hit on the topic I wanted to as far as small business and small business taxation. I have spent 20 years in small business. And in all honesty, Secretary, your answer that the offset of a 20% tax increase on small business will be overcome with some type of stimulus. And I, as a small businessman myself, I can honestly tell you I don't feel very stimulated going into this. First off, there was a question earlier on by Representative Donatucci in regards to the Go Time initiative. Were you able to tell us specifically where the $150 million was reduced, what line items were specifically reduced?
Again, in the first year, the biggest portion of those estimated savings are from strategic sourcing, procurement.
What line item would I find that at?
Again, procurement purchases through DGS across all of state government.
Okay, because we did ask DGS and they weren't able to answer that question. Secondly, we've had some discussion here about structural deficits in this budget, and Representative Killian was also referring to potential structural deficits we can face with the liquor not being able to fund the bond issuance for pension. I did have a question in regards to that as well, and it's in regards to the effort to have combined reporting included in the budget in future tax years in 2016. When I had asked Secretary McNulty about the potential revenues generated from combined reporting, she had told me $507.6 million would be additional revenues would be generated from combined reporting. Is this a number you agree with?
That would be, for the purposes of clarity, in the 16-17 fiscal
Correct.
year, not in the 15-16 fiscal year?
Correct.
Okay. Yes.
Is that a number you agree with? And is that, in my mind, is it, with a reduced income CNIT of 2016, the CNIT would be 599, is that correct?
The CNI rate in the effective January 1 of 2016, the rate would be reduced to 5.99%.
Okay.
Net corporate tax collections in the 15-16 fiscal year would be reduced by an estimated $250 million. In the 16-17 fiscal year, when the results or effect of combined reporting are factored in, there would still be a net reduction in corporate net income tax receipts. That reduction would total about $390 million net of that $507 million or so estimate that you had cited earlier. And then those savings from combined reporting or receipts from combined reporting do moderate slightly in future fiscal years to offset the further reductions in the CNI. But that offset or net reduction by the 17-18 fiscal year will exceed $700 million. So there will be a cost from that effort to move our corporate net income tax rate to the much more competitive 4.99%.
And what I'm trying to get at is the estimated increased revenues based upon combined reporting. And by my math, $507 million at a 5.99 tax rate is $8.4 billion of additional taxable income that would have to be captured. Does that sound reasonable?
There's some spillover in that number, frankly, from the 15. Again, we don't assume any collections in the 15-16 tax year, and there are tax provisions in place right now that will allow corporations to simply make that adjustment starting in the 16-17 fiscal year. So you really see the combined effect of really 2 years of collections in that number.
Okay.
That's
I guess what I'm trying to get at is out of that additional $8.4 billion of taxable revenue that we're trying to get to. Is that all just coming from companies that are using some type of tax avoidance scheme, or are we going to be capturing other companies as well?
You've heard the often repeated number, and I think it does distort the total somewhat because it includes corporations that don't have a tax liability at all, but more than 70% of corporate filers don't currently pay anything to the Commonwealth.
Well, that's not fair either, because more than 70% of tax filers are small businesses that are filing individual income taxes, or S corps that are coming through for personal income taxes. So you have to just look at C corps.
That's corporate filers that don't have any
S corporations are
tax
corporate
liability.
filers. S corporations are corporate filers.
S corporations are not corporate filers.
What is your definition of corporate filer? I guess that's all right. We don't need to have that discussion right now, and time-wise, we're getting a little bit extensive. I do have to say this, though. Every time, and we've heard this now for 3 weeks about we have to look at this, and you had mentioned this to Representative Mosser as well, as that and Representative Killing, that we have to look at this comprehensively. Mm-hmm. And every time I keep hearing this, that we have to look at the budget as a whole. It's a comprehensive thing, that we have to look at it all together. I am somewhat confused. Does that mean, is this an all or nothing type of thing? Are we willing to sit down and talk about breaking things up and looking at what's appealing to some and what's not? Because every time I keep hearing that it's comprehensive, it makes it sound like it's not being able to be compromised on.
I think what you're hearing the governor say is that we have to look at the budget holistically, that if we don't create a more competitive business climate to grow new jobs and growth, then even if we balance the structural budget deficit for the next fiscal year, that we're probably, when we look at in the longer term, going to see that the success of that effort undone. If we aren't providing a quality education for all of our students, that we're going to pay a long-term cost for that. That, as you heard the governor say on Budget Day, he welcomes a conversation with all members of the General Assembly.
And that's really all I'm asking. Are we going to have a conversation, or is this?
And their input to further shape the governor's proposed plan. But it's his strong recommendation and hope that we will address all of these aspects of his budget proposal in full, so that we don't have the kind of piecemeal solutions that have taken us down the path that we followed to this point.
Thank you.
Thank you.